Hey guys, welcome back to your water collage landscape. So last week we were talking about watercolor techniques and you guys began drawing out and sketching your landscape designs. This week we are going to jump into painting our watercolor paper. While you guys were home last week, you used a watercolor palette, but this week you're going to be using the Koi watercolor tubes. I'm going to have the sub give you a pea size of the paint. That will be more than enough for you guys to use in class this period. You'll get a pea size of the colors that you request, or if you would like all of them, just say all. Once you have all your desired watercolor paints, make sure that you also have some water to the side so you can use that to activate the paint as well. As you can see, I was unsure of what colors I wanted to use, so I am setting up my palette with a dot or a pea size of each color of the watercolors. And I'm also using white just to make sure that I can lighten up some areas as well. So using your paintbrushes inside your portfolio folder, right now I'm just wetting my paper just so that I could do the wet and wet technique. So again, dipping my brush into the water, then onto the paper, and here I go, starting my wet and wet. I just decided to dot it around before I start spreading it all over my paper. I want you guys to make sure that you're filling up your one sheet completely with one technique that you're using. When you're choosing your colors, make sure you're choosing colors that aren't going to create a muddy brown. You want to use colors that will complement each other and work well off of each other. So now you can see how I'm going into the drop color in wet. So I'm just dropping a little bit of color into each section of this. If you feel that you have too much water on your paintbrush, use a paper towel and dry it off, and then the brush will become dry and you'll be able to soak up the extra water on your watercolor painting. Again, I'm dropping in some more color here, blending it in, just to give it that different color effect of the blues and the greens in here. So I hope you guys enjoyed that little instrumental break while I was painting. Again, you can see here that I am blending in my greens and my blues still with the wet and wet technique. And I'm just taking my brush going back and forth. If I feel that I have too much watercolor or paint on my brush, I dry it off on the napkin and then I go in and absorb it, and I'm also dropping in other colors as well. If I really want to blend the colors, I'll take some strokes and then I'll go back with the watercolor paint to blend them all together. So here, this is great combination for if you want to do a grass area in your landscape, or if you want more of a nighttime sky look with a little hint of green. This is what that can be used for. Again, you're painting the full paper, you're going to make it dry and make sure your name is on the back. Alright, so our next technique up is the dabbing. So as you can see, I am taking my paintbrush and I'm just dabbing in the reddish pink color, and then I'm going to go in with some blue because we know that red and blue make a purpley color. So again, this is a great technique to use if you're trying to do a sky effect. By doing the dabbing, it makes it look almost cloud-like. So this is definitely something I highly recommend you do if you need to do pieces for your sky. Again, you're just dabbing your brush down very gently. You're not slamming it into your paper. You're doing it softly so that you don't ruin the tip of your brush. And you're going in again with a darker color to blend the colors together. Another color you could do with this is you could do the pink, red, and yellow, or the orange to blend the colors as well. I also just really like the way that the red and blue complement each other. Again, remember to complete the entire page with this type of painting technique. Make sure your name is on the back so that you can use it to rip up for when you are doing your landscape collage. For my next one, I decided to draw a line down the middle because I don't want to use the whole paper, so I'm going to do two different styles on one page. On the left side, I am using brown to create more of a look for trees and bushes. So instead of doing the wet and wet technique, I'm doing the dry brush technique. So I am just taking my brown and I am painting it all over the page. Now I'm going to go in with a darker green to give it more of that mucky brown look. To me, I feel that the trees and the bushes should have this green-brown look to it, so that's why I chose those two colors to work with here. If you notice, I don't just take the green and go all over the brown. I go in different sections and spots, and then I actually overlay a little bit more green or a little bit more brown, just so that it doesn't look like I wanted to paint one layer one color and then go over the next layer with the other. I want to space it out to give it more style and texture to it. And then I'm going in with some water just to blend my colors together. Another cool effect again is the blotting with the either tissue or paper towel. Again, this gives it a really nice texture with all these earth tones. So now I'm going to work on the right side. I couldn't decide if I wanted this for a nighttime sky or mountain effects, but I started out with the black. And if you notice, it's a little gray because it is so transparent with that water. But the more layers you add of the black, the more opaque and darker it's going to be. So now, again, I'm just doing that dabbing technique and dabbing the black all around. I dry off my brush and then I use it again to soak up any extra water on there. And maybe now I want to go in with a different color. I think the blue was a good choice here. So I'm just dabbing in the blue into different directions. Notice how I'm not staying in one spot, but I'm spreading it all around. But also notice how I'm not spreading it just all over the black in general, that you can still see some of that black detail. Again, I use the water to blend it together more. And now I'm going to add in another color as well. So I tried to make more of a purpley color with the red and blue. And now I'm going to add in some white to make it look like it has a cloud effect to it too. Now you don't always have to add in the white, this is just my choice, but I like the way it looks, giving more of a cloud effect, and it looks more like a nighttime sky, but this is something that you can also use for mountains. So now we're going to talk about cleaning up. So you're going to spill out your water and you're going to wash your brush as followed. See how I swivel it in my hand and then I test it on my wrist as well. Then I'm going to take the watercolor paints and make sure that I get all the watercolor out of each space. I don't want anything left over, so I'm using my thumb to scrape it all out. Don't worry, the watercolor does not stain you, so it will come right off your fingers as well. So again, I'm just scraping everything out. Cleaning is part of your grade, so please make sure you are cleaning all your supplies properly. When you are done with this, make sure you dry it all off and put it into your portfolio folder. Along with your paintbrushes, go back into your supply kit as well. If you have any questions, you can message me via Teams. So make sure you give yourself enough time to do this at the end of the period.